Belal versus Gilbert. Who do you guys give the edge to? And they revealed some real inside baseball for us, right? They told us a little about the contract negotiation. I don't like to be a prude on anything. I really don't like to be a naysayer. I will tell you, I do get stuck in my craw when somebody attempts to change the rules of our sport. And just to tell you the history on that, right? I go way back. I first saw mixed martial arts in 1993. But I first practiced mixed martial arts in 1995, and I first competed in mixed martial arts in 1997. I only bring that to you because, talk about not knowing what you don't know. Not having weigh-ins, not having practices. There was no gym that was a mixed martial. You boxed over here, and most people grappled in their living room, quite literally. There was 6 Gracie certified jiu-jitsu gyms in all of America. All of America. So, it was just one of these things. Evan Tanner went all the way to a world title fight, ordering DVDs, moving his coffee table out of the way with a neighbor. Evan Tanner would get magazines, move that coffee table out of the way, get his neighbor, who's his workout partner and good friend, and they would practice these things. Evan entered Abu Dhabi off of that. People laugh or are in awe of that story. It's a very normal story. That is a very normal story. My buddy Justin and I used to go to 7-Eleven in Tualatin, Oregon every 30 days because a new edition of Black Belt magazine would come out. And somewhere right around the middle, like where you're used to the centerfold, somewhere right in there, there would be about a 3-page, but it would be an instructional. Somebody would be showing you a technique to do step by step by step. And then we go out in the parking lot and we'd practice it. Okay, I think his arm is this way. And then it's one of those. So we didn't have the money to buy the magazine. So we go in the park, we pray, and then we go back in and we look again and we go back out. It's just one of these things. Like, I share this because I fully admit that when I came up, these things were wrong. I didn't glorify these things, talking about how cool it was back in my day. There's a reason we did away with that stuff. But as we did away with it, and as the rules changed, as weight classes were formed, as the wrapping of the hands, as drug testing came in, as blood work testing pre-fight came in, as rules and all these wonderful things that happened, we would have guys who would go out of the states to where there weren't commissions and they would do their fights. Why did they do that? Because they wanted to manipulate the rules. And within the United States, you could not do that. The commissions enforced the rules. But if you went over to Japan, you could strong arm the promoter off the hope that your name could draw into manipulating the rules that favored you. And it's a really weird thing that the public would accept that. And the general public won't. And they don't, and they never have. I share that with you. Our top guy in jiu-jitsu in the whole world right now will go to events where his match has different rules than every other match on the same event, which for our industry, which we're used to, is fine. If you wanted to branch out and have mainstream appeal, of course you can't do that. It's ridiculous. Having a basketball game that's 3 quarters, it's ridiculous. Having a 1-mile race that's 4.5 miles, it's insane. I only bring it to you because when this happens in our sport, which is rare, I don't love it. I didn't love it over the weekend when Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia had a rehydration clause. There are some states, Ohio's one of them, California to a different degree, but they will weigh you in. There's things that you have to do in terms of a scale after the weigh-in and prior to the fight. Ohio and California are the only ones that I can think of, and California won't. You're not going to get sanctioned, but they have a check process. I'm going fast, but I'm sharing enough with you to let you know I am aware of the distinctions between the two. That's not what happened here. They made an agreement. It was legal. It was binding. It would have affected, there would have been penalties from a financial standpoint, but they made an arrangement outside of that of the commission. And the commission has never been asked to weigh in on that. But if they were, and that were tested, I'd be very curious which way that went. I'd be very curious. There are laws on fight fixing. You can go to prison for fixing a fight. And before you think that just means that they predetermined when I hit you in the body in the 4th round, in the last 10 seconds, you go down. It's not that way. There's other ways to fix it. They fixed them in Japan in Pride all the time. They would have a wrestler and they would go to his locker room and his locker room only. They say, good luck tonight, fight your heart out. No takedowns. Do we have an agreement? Here's 20 grand, cash. Do anything you want. Don't take him down. You're the wrestler, don't take him down. They did this all the time in Pride. They didn't fix the outcome. They didn't predetermine. Well, they definitely influenced it. They changed the rules. Can we agree on that? 2 guys are going to go box, but they have an agreement that 1 time per round, we both get to kick the other one in the nuts. Do it whenever you want, but you get to do it. And we wrote it down. We tell the commission, and it's right here. We wrote it down. And of course you can't do it. I mean, I'm being silly. I understand that, but just because you can't kick the guy in a boxing match, how do you change anything, including the weigh-in, which is overseen by the commission? You don't get to change anything else that the commission did. Commission says we're fighting with 14-ounce gloves. You don't get to show up with 18-ounce gloves and then show the commission where you agreed to do this. The commission says you must box in a 17 by 17 foot ring. You don't get to show up in a 19 by 18 foot ring and show the commission the piece of paper. It's a chicken SHI move to do something like that. And I'm going a little bit far to bring in this rehydration clause, which is, I mean, that's a problem. That probably should be looked at. I'll tell you what, if I bet on that fight and I didn't have the information that they did that, somebody would be getting sued. They would be getting sued by Chael Sonnen. If that rule was in there and it's not part of the commission and that was not explained to me when I placed a bet, somebody's getting taken to court. I'll tell you right now. So when you come into a sport like this that is scheduled for 3 rounds, but you changed it to 5, I have a problem with that. Me, I'm all alone. I have no backup anywhere, okay? I'm looking out for 2 guys that have to go and do that. They don't want my support. They don't agree with me. I'm all alone. But when you start to change the rules of an event, it's a very slippery slope. I don't care who can beat who in 40 minutes. I used to deal with this very smart guy I used to train with, used to compete against. Went on to be teammates with named Ryan Tobin. Ryan Tobin's a 3-time All-America, University of Nebraska. One of their most successful guys. Ryan Tobin put a beating on Brock Lesnar that you could go find on YouTube right now. Puts a beating on him. Goes on to become a lawyer. Great guy, Ryan Tobin. Handsome, whole bit. Wrestling coaches just want to design the hardest practice. I mean, they were really into that. Like, whoever the better coach is whoever has the hardest practice. It's a really weird thing, but it'll never go away. And they'd want to do what's called an hour grind match. And Tobin would refuse. He'd openly refuse. I'm not doing that. Well, sure you are, Ryan. You're the team captain. You're a 3-time All-American. You're ranked number 2 in the country. Of course you're going to do it. That's what we're doing today. Why? A wrestling match is 7 minutes. Why would I possibly wrestle for 60? How does that prepare me to go 7 minutes? Tobin asked a very fair question. I heard that in the 90s from him. Fast forward to 2014, I work out with George St. Pierre, who would only warm up and go 5.5s. He'll do anything you want in those 5.5s. He will go as hard as you could possibly, but he's only going to do 5.5s. Because he needs to manage his energy and know exactly what he can do for 5.5s. I mean, it's just a theory, but I'm sharing it with you. And it's one of those things, including a competition. It would very much be different if we changed the times. Very much. Every sport would be. Every sport. You ever seen a football game where one team's leading at halftime, but they don't end up winning the game? Of course you do. Every Sunday, you see a bunch of those. You ever see a basketball game like that? What I just described. You ever see a hockey game? After 1 quarter, one team's winning, but they don't end up winning the game? Of course they don't. Should we stop it after 1 quarter and then you have a result? That's not the way the game is played. You play all 4. You look for a point differential. They win. So we've got Gilbert. We've got Belal. They've disclosed for us. Belal wanted to go 175. Hey, it's short notice. I weigh about 82. You weigh about 82. I'm going to have to cut to get to 75. You're going to have to cut to get to 75. Let's spot each other 5 pounds. I fully understand that, but Gilbert looked at it very similar to the way I do and says, That's not the way the game is played. If two welterweights are going to fight for contendership at welterweight, we must weigh in at welterweight. I respect it. I couldn't go against that. It's the premise of my entire theme right now. But then Muhammad says, all right, I'll cut the extra weight. Fine. I mean, I've got to do this exact same thing you're doing because we weigh the same. We'll get in the ring at the same. I like that he makes that point. He says, but let's make it 5 rounds. And you had a commission, then make it 5 rounds. Right? I mean, if you're making the fight, you got a job. Get the fight in the ring and make the fight. You got a commission that lets you do it right. I'm not pointing a finger at anyone here. And if this is what the guys agreed to, but I would wonder why the commission did that and with what authority. I read their bylaws. They can be more restrictive. They cannot be less restrictive. This is less restrictive. They don't have the authority to do this. I'm going to set that aside. It's done. These guys are going to go have a match. I'm just asking you, who does that favor? I think of Gilbert Burns as a cardio athlete. I realize that Belal has found a way to weaponize pace as well. I don't see a differential here that favors Belal. Now, I've had disagreements with that. I had a disagreement with Ryan Parsons on that very topic. And it does surprise me. Generally, the guy that has to pull more weight than he's comfortable would like it to be less time. That's one of the big surprises for me. If you suggest the fight be at 175, you'd rather it be 1 round than go the other way. Generally. Not in this case. Belal thinks he can run him down. Gilbert doesn't think it's a problem. And I'm asking you, which one of them's right?